This video will show you how to assemble your CubeeCraft after you've created the shapes. So I'm going to go through and assemble it. I've got a new assembly file here. I've got the head placed inside the assembly file. Remember that since that's the first part that's inserted, that is grounded, as you can see over in the browser. Now I'm going to place the torso, which is going to get attached to the head. I'm going to rotate my view so I can see the bottom of the head. I'll constrain it first with a mate constraint, which is the standard constraint, or the default constraint. Then I want to add a couple of flush constraints, but I want to offset it so that it's in the center of this. To put it in the center, I need to know how big my head is and how big my torso is. If you remember how big it is, just go off of that. Otherwise, you can find out with the Inspect tool. There's a distance measurement. You just click on an edge. It'll tell you how long it is. That edge is 2 inches. That's the head. This edge here, let me clear that. This edge here is 1.285 from there to there. So what I need is, and I'll just make sure it's the same on this side, 1.285. So it's going to be the distance, the halfway between the difference. So it'd be 2 inches minus 1.285 divided by 2. Now I could do that math, or I could actually just have Inventor do that math. So I'll go and make another constraint. This time it'll be a flush constraint with these two surfaces, but now I want to offset that back. So I'm going to type right in the offset box a little formula. I'll do a parenthesis 2 minus 1.285, and then I'll divide it by 2. It's going the wrong way here, so I need to make it negative, and that pushed it the right way. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side here. So I will do another flush and then another offset, negative 2 minus 1.285 divided by 2. That one didn't need to be negative, so I'll actually delete the negative. And now the head will be centered on the bottom. The torso will be centered on the head. Okay, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the legs. Okay, now I have the legs assembled on in the same fashion. Now I'll do the arms. So I'll start by placing one copy of an arm on this side over here. I'll start with a mate constraint onto the side of the body. But now what I want to do is I want the arm to be rotated at 45 degrees. Now exactly where I want it to be, I'm gonna tweak it a little bit later. But right now I just want to first rotate it, and then I'm going to kind of place it in place. So I'm going to start, I'm going to use an angle constraint. Right here is the angle constraint. And I'm going to use the first type of solution, a directed angle. So now I'll click on this surface here, and I'll click on the bottom head there. But I'm going to set that at a 45-degree angle. The arm's set at an angle to this, so I'll press OK, and I can still move it around, but it always stays at that angle and constrained to that side. To lock it in place, I'm going to use another constraint. I'll use a mate constraint, but this time I'm just going to mate this edge, which makes up the kind of the top corner of the arm right now, with this front surface here. And then I'll offset it back. I'll just do it half of the width of the body, which was 1.285. So I'll do 1.285 divided by 2. And I'll make that negative so that I have it on the body. And then I'll do a similar constraint to the bottom of the head. That I'll do 0.05, just down a tiny little bit from it. So now the arm is fully constrained. I can't move it. And it's attached to the side of the body. And we'll be able to tweak that a little bit later to get it exactly where it's supposed to be. We'll see that in a minute. To place the other arm, we can actually use where we put that arm as points of reference. So I'll place a second copy of the arm, and I will constrain it with a mate to the side, and then a flush constraint to the top of that arm, and then another flush constraint to the front of the other arm. So now they're equally spaced on either side. So that is the finished assembly of the CubeeCraft character and its pieces. Next we'll put some graphics on it so it actually looks like a character CubeeCraft.